one thing that I will actually get you guys started with, just thinking, and of course, Dr. Zhu will tell you more. And also there's a panel of the students who actually have gone through the graduate program or going through them. They will share your experience. Just at the outset, you may already have heard, but computer science at UTSA is the top program, literally the top program in research across UTSA in terms of ranking and such, right? We do have world-class faculty, and then you may have interacted with them, probably taken class with them, but they are at the forefront of technology, winning prestigious awards. National Science Foundation, that is our research funding agency, primary research funding agency, they have been getting early career awards. In fact, we have had 9 early career awards from NSF, not a very large faculty that we have, right? So this really is a remarkable department. So we are all privileged that we belong to this department and how you can participate. So one thing that I will urge you to do is to interact with your faculty members, also the students who have already been doing some research. Find opportunity for research with the faculty members. Also, there are other opportunities that you should be looking out for. So you have been getting some of the announcements for RU sites, research for undergraduate experience. So those are typically in the area or they're elsewhere. Those are also wonderful things to really participate in. We do want, I think one of the key mission for us is to have a significant percentage of our own students, and we actually have great students, to come to our graduate program, right? Master's program, PhD program. We support all our PhD students. When I say support, the tuition is paid off, you get stipend, and then you do wonderful things. You invent, you actually move the needle in a significant way, right? We also support some of the master's program, master's students with scholarships and sometimes also research assistantships. So a lot of opportunities are there. Okay, so let me welcome you again and then hand it over to Dr. Zhu. I think he has a presentation for you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Prasad.
So my name is Dakai. I'm a graduate of the vital record for the Department of Computer Science graduate program. And I have a couple of slides here to give you some idea of what our graduate program are. And especially some of you may considering, continue your study with the graduate school, and some of you may have confusion regarding what qualification is and so on and so forth. Okay, so a quick few slides. I think the first slide I'll try to make it update these numbers, but may not be up to date. Okay, accurate. We have about 21 faculty who are working on research on different areas, especially the cybersecurity. It's a very top program. The national recognized program. We also have a lot of people working on system, machine learning, bioinformatics, algorithm, software engineering, and the research are generally funded by the government agencies, National Science Foundation, Department of Defense. Some of them are funded by national security agencies and some industry partners as well. And I think last semester is about 1,300 plus undergraduate plus another 500 pre-CS. I'm not sure, sometimes the numbers are kind of changing a little bit. And at this moment, we roughly have 60 or 70 master students and have about 65 PhD students now currently. And we are actually looking at expanding the graduate program, including both the master's and the PhD program, okay? And every year we are looking at a target at this moment. We have graduates 20 to 35 master, about 10 PhDs. And when they graduate, they have went to the different career placement, including the industry. For instance, the top IT companies, including Google, Microsoft, IBM, Oracle, Dell. And quite a few of PhDs are actually join the universities as professors in other universities, okay? And or join other colleges. So that is the general information about the department. So in case I don't know a lot of all of them. And for the graduate program, and at this moment we have 3 graduate degree program and 2 master program. One is a master in computer science, and this program similar, I think, as undergraduate program. You have concentrations, and within this master program we have 3 different concentrations, including cybersecurity, data science, and software engineering. And starting actually last fall, we actually have a couple of new students enrolled in the Master of Science in Cybersecurity Science. This is actually with more focus on cybersecurity, the course design, curriculum selection, and so on. And then we have our PhD program, okay? So I'm gonna go through them one by one now, okay? And so Chris, I saw that, I just saw an email from Comfort. He said that she joined and she need to be admitted. So be sure to admit the guest that you invited, okay? All right, I'll move on here. And so the admissions. So I think that is probably a lot of you have confusion that. So can I apply or do I qualify and so on. So the general idea of this graduate program that is if you know you are really like to do research, I think that is probably today's meeting for, give you the idea of what research are from our own student. And you can apply either the master, starting from masters, or you can apply to the PhD directly, even after you just get your bachelor degree, by the way, okay? And the minimum requirement that is you get the degree in CS or related area, you get a GPA, the minimum GPA requirement is 3.0, and you need to also prepare some documentation, including the self-statement of what has motivated you for the graduate studies, okay? And the master in CS and master in cybersecurity, in general, that would normally require you to give 2 recommendation letters from the course that you took, your professors. And if you already work part-time, you may also get some of them from your manager or supervisors as well. And the PhD require 3 letters and as well as a GRE test. But the thing is, this fall semester, or even I'm not sure for the spring yet, by the way. So the fall, they have suspended basically they waived the GRE score because of the pandemic situation. I think probably it will remain be waived for the spring 2022. Okay. And in addition to this 3 program, I think there is, if you are thinking about this master program, there is a master VIP program, by the way. If you have a good GPA, the minimum 3.3 or better, we normally look at the GPA 3.5, and you can talk to your professors. So especially who are teaching, for instance, the upper election course or the core course that you make a very good score there, you have a good project, and talk to the professor. If they may be able to nominate you for the VIP program. It's kind of like the auto admission. So once you are nominated, once we process the paperwork and you go to the graduate school webpage, you submit the application, you will get admitted automatically without further reviews. Okay, so because this review the committee will review your nomination before you apply. So basically, so once you're notified you qualify, you basically just go ahead, submit the application, and you will get admitted. Okay, so that is the few things that I want to mention. And some of you may wondering, so what if I really want to pursue the graduate program, but my GPA is a little bit shy of 3.0, maybe 2.8, some get a bad time or some semester or whatever. And so in that case, it is possible that you can get a conditional admitted. And even if you have, even if you have 3.2, 3.1, if you have really a core course you didn't do very well, you may be what I call it, when we admit recommendations, we put some additional conditions. For instance, maybe we take some of the core course, or we just say that is if you can maintain your GPA 3.0 or better within the first year, and you should be fine. So basically, the condition will be lifted after the first year. So if you can maintain the good GPAs, okay. And so that is what you can see here. So basically, the door is open for the majority of the students who would like to pursue the graduate program. And don't be shy that if you really have not that great GPA, if you really have confusion, you can talk to me. All right. Excuse me. And so that is the requirement, and this is the application deadlines. And for the March program and for the fall semester, there are 2 deadlines. And for March 15, it's an early deadline. You can get early notification. Or the latest one is June 15. And for the spring, the 2 deadline, well, you can see there. And this does not apply to us, I assume. And the PhD program, and apparently the deadline has passed for this fall. Fall deadline is in February, it's passed already. And for the spring semester, if you are graduating at the end of this year, you want to pursue the PhD, the deadline will be beginning of September. Okay. And move on with some requirement. And so in general, that is Two of the master program, they have a few different options. You can do the thesis we really want to research, or you can take the course options, or you can do some research project without formally writing a thesis, but you can do some codings, develop some program, and so on, okay? And both of the programs require 30 credit hours and typically take 1.5 years, or maybe if you get some delayed part-time, maybe run a little bit longer, okay? And I don't want to go to detail here, but I think, if you want more information later on, you can just email me to get some more information regarding what exactly is needed. For instance, for the master in CS, you have a core course. We know that there are 4 core courses plus some electives, research course if you want to choose different options, and you can also do the thesis. And for the master in cybersecurity, you have the cybersecurity core, 2 cores, and then you have 2 CS core, plus some required elective 2 course and some other elective 2 course, and they have the research course as well as the thesis. Okay, and for the PhD program, and normally require 72 credit hours, and 24, which is 8 course, is coursework, and the other 48 is the research. It can be research or can be flexible electives. Okay. And through this PhD study, by the way, so mainly if you can see here, I highlight PhD is not really just a course taking. You take the course, you pass get a good grade. PhD are more exploring the unknown territory. I would call it research, right? So basically you want to expand the knowledge sphere of the human beings, okay? And so what we expect that is you spend most of the time doing research, thinking, test, or try different things, and then by the end of the day, you get something new, and we are expecting to get high quality publications and passing through all this qualification exam, proposal examination, as well at the very end, you're going to defend your dissertations, okay? And the last 2 slides is about the financial aid. The financial aid for the master students that we normally have the $1,000 graduate scholarship. Sometimes the graduate school also going to offer that $1,000 scholarship that you can apply once you get here, or maybe even before, you can join there. Especially if you are qualified for VIP master student, you basically get more, I would say, that priority to apply this, being considered for this type of scholarships. And in addition to that, we have some graders, and we are actually starting this spring semester. We are the department actually need a large number of hourly paid graders, and about 25 or something around there, maybe more than 25. And there are a couple of them, maybe only a very few, students in the past, we support them with teaching assistantship, but it's very limited because of this. We don't have, we have some financial issues there. So this part will be limited, but we do have a lot of greater positions there, okay? And if you are really doing good research and working with some individual faculty, the faculty have funded the program, and you can also get research assistantships, okay? In addition to that, you may also apply, and the ASF has what's called the Graduate Research Fellow program, and you can apply either for master or PhD. You can apply for that. They're going to pay all the tuition plus the monthly stipend through your study. And more information you can find if you want to get more scholarship information. You can just go there. Department webpage, the scholarship/graduate. Okay. And so the PhD, if you're really interested in working in PhD, I would say that all the full-time PhD within the department, and they are fully supported, financially supported through either teaching assistantship from the department or research assistantship by the individual faculties. Okay, and so with that, I would hand back the floor to Chris. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Zhu. We'll go ahead and introduce our panelists. We've got 3 people here today. I've got here Amatullah, Comfort, and John. They're all graduate students who are doing research right now. So if I could have you guys, I guess we'll start with Amatullah. Could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you're working on right now?
Yes, sure. Thank you again for inviting me to this meeting. So I'm Amatullah Yusuf. I'm a master's student at UTSA. And I'm in my 2nd year. So my research is with Dr. Prasad, and what we focus in is parallelization and distributed computing, so high performance computing. And my focus mainly is to, kind of parallelize existing data structures, as well as come up with new parallel data structures that are suited for spatiotemporal data, which is just data that has both spatial and temporal features to it. So yeah, so that's basically what I'm working on right now.
Okay.
Mhm.
Sounds interesting. All right, and Comfort.
I'm happy to be here. So my name is Comfort Alora Liro, and I'm a master's student in the CS department. I work in the Sprite Lab, which is security, privacy, ethics, and technology. So mostly what we're focusing on right now is obviously security, but with wearables and with IoT devices. So my focus specifically is on IoT devices with mobile technology. And that's what my thesis is in. I'm doing a thesis as well. And so my thesis is about smart lights and IoT devices, trying to see if we can predict user behavior or data from the smart devices like the smart lights that they use. And I'm also a teaching assistant, so I get assistance from the department doing that as well. And yeah, that's everything for my graduate school experience.
Okay, cool. And lastly, John.
Hi, I'm John Heaps. Thank you for allowing me to be here. I actually
Thanks for
just
coming.
graduated my PhD, I think last summer. So I'm no longer a PhD student, but I'm still happy to be here. And so most of my work is in software engineering, privacy, and kind of machine learning, where I'm using machine learning, usually deep learning, for automated static analysis of, for example, privacy analysis for Android systems and bug and vulnerability detection of software and those types of problems. Yeah, thank you.
Can you tell us about how you got interested in research? Kind of like what started you down your journey? Back to Amatullah.
Yeah, so my journey with research has been quite a turmoil. So I actually started my research with Dr. Ruan in bioinformatics. And so that's actually what got me interested and motivated me to pursue a master's degree and do my research. But I think halfway through the research, we're hitting a few, road bumps, and there were like funding issues. And so I kind of had to, think of something new. And then I also took a analysis of algorithms course, the master's version, which actually kind of cleared out a lot of things from the undergraduate thing, especially the later on stuff that was very unclear for me. And so that's kind of what got me really interested in the algorithms and all of that side of computer science. And I was lucky enough around the same time, Dr. Prasad, I heard that Dr. Prasad was, looking out for students who were interested in that aspect of research. And although I joined him not really knowing anything much about his research or what my role would be, I just deep dived into it. And yeah, I was lucky enough to actually find something that did pique my interest, and I did grow an affinity towards. So yeah, that's kind of been my journey with research.
Oh, we've got a question here in chat. Does the graduate analysis of algorithms course pick up where the undergraduate version leaves off?
So yes and no. So it kind of goes very fast, about for a quarter or half of the semester over the undergraduate stuff, and then it spends the rest of the semester focusing on the harder concepts in the undergraduate version that we didn't have too much time to go over, like NP hard problems and such. So that part was the more interesting part. The first half is just going over the undergraduate stuff for people who are not from UTSA to get up to speed.
Okay, so could I have you just expand a little bit on how did you actually make your connections with the professors and get initially started in the research?
Right. So with Dr. Ruan, I actually had taken his data science course as an undergraduate and his bioinformatics course. And I think it was just with the project, keeping that rapport with the professor, visiting them in the office hours. I'm not very proactive in that sense, so I was not expecting too much. But yeah, then when I was interested in a master's degree, I reached out to Dr. Ruan. I knew that he was doing very interesting research at the time. And so I actually reached out to him, and he did take me on board. He even nominated me as a VIP student, so that worked out as as well.
Nice.
And with Dr. I believe that the CS department had sent out an email saying that Dr. Prasad was open to getting new students who are interested in research on board. And so I kind of reached out to him through that email thread, and that's how I got connected with him. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So kind of same question over to Comfort. Like, how did you make your connections with the professors, and how did you get involved in research?
Yeah, so I did my undergrad at UTSA as well, but then I left for a little bit and worked for about 2 years. And then I decided to come back for my master's. So once I decided, I'm pretty strategic. I don't like to just go somewhere and hope something happens. So once I decided to come back for my master's, I knew that I wanted help with funding. And I had been talking to some friends who let me know that you could get funding through research. So research was like my first avenue to kind of look for funding. So what I did was I just went on the UTSA website. There's the directory list of faculty, and a lot of them have links to their websites that will talk about what it is they're working on. And for the people that I was interested in whatever they're working on, I just sent them emails. I sent my resume. I was like, hey, I'm interested in what you're working on. Do you have any openings? And so from that, I talked to a couple professors, and one of the professors I talked to was the professor I'm with right now, Dr. Chaliwala. He was a new professor as well at that time, so I didn't know him from undergrad. We just talked about it, and he was like, okay, yeah, like I can take you on. So usually what happens is for these research positions, the faculty members have their funding for it through whatever grants or scholarships they have. So they're sponsoring the students, right? And helping them with their funding for tuition and other things. But according to what I know, and anyone can correct me, there's a preference for PhD students for the research positions because, like Amatola was saying, it's very tumultuous and it's that way all the time. Like, regardless of what you're doing, you're going to fail a lot. And so you need enough time to fail and then get it right. So having more years with PhD students is better for research positions. So he let me know at that time he didn't even have funding. And I'm still not getting funded for research assistantships right now, but I am doing research because it did interest me. I had a focus in computer information and security for my undergrad. So security was something of interest to me always. But he let me know that there were TA assistantships and I could get assistantships through that. So that's how I got to know about the TA position. And he also recommended me for the TA position as well. And so, yeah, that was it. I reached out and I talked to the people that I was most interested in and just figured out the best route to get the things that I felt like I needed during my stay at the graduate school.
Okay.
Could I just hop into that?
Of course.
Okay, yeah. So I think that with what Comfort is doing, I think a lot of research with a lot of faculties are kind of in high demand as opposed to other research or like other research that has just started or, so I think like compared to that, like comparatively, there might be some faculty who who are more willing to offer research assistantship to a master's student, maybe depending on their funding, their like the history of the student themselves, if they have proven themselves, through the undergraduate or something. And then, it also depends on like what area you're going into, because I believe like what area, especially cybersecurity with Comfort, I think it's like a high demand area in the computer science department. And so, yeah, I think it also depends on, what research you're kind of tacking on to or funding yeah. And then, like she said, like, some professors do prefer PhD students because, they have, these certain number of years kind of guaranteed from them. So they have a guarantee of really furthering their research in that field. So yeah, so some professors have a preference in that sense.
Okay. Thank you. All right. And
I wanted to ask, sorry.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask Comfort, how have you enjoyed your TA position in your program? Has it helped you out like with your research, or is it you just like the being able to be in a teaching position?
It hasn't helped me out with my research, so that one's easy, but it's helped to kind of round out my knowledge a little bit more for different things. So I've been a TA for like the Python classes, related to mostly intro to Python, and then I was a TA for a data science class as well. But everything I learned about Python, I don't think well, now they have Python classes at UTSA, but when I was an undergrad, we didn't have any Python classes. So everything I knew about Python, I kind of did myself. And so teaching those classes helped out with getting a little bit more information in that. And so you really get to learn a lot when you're having to teach it because you have to prepare as well. Anyone can ask you whatever, and you kind of have to prepare for that. So that's helped in that aspect and making me feel more comfortable with the programming language, but not for my research specifically.
Cool, thanks.
I think I'll just add, I think if I was doing the TA for the information security classes they have, maybe it would help, but I haven't TA'd for any security related classes so far.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go over to John now. On that same question, how did you get involved in research? How did you make your connections with the professors or the researchers that you work with?
Yeah, so as far as getting involved in research, I guess I actually went to sort of an information session like this, I think late sophomore year, early junior year as an undergrad at UTSA. I also did my undergrad at UTSA. And I think that really motivated me to kind of be really interested in getting into research because, I've had a few jobs and, after, when you first start a job, it's pretty exciting. You're like, oh yeah, new job. You get to learn new things, you get to do new things. But then after so many months or a year goes by, you sort of become an expert in that job. I think it's very boring. It's just sort of the grind that, nobody really likes that. And so in research, though, that doesn't really sort of ever set in. And so I really hate that. I hate that grind. I hate that boring, like, oh, I'm just here. It feels almost like wasting away, like in your job. And so
Exactly
in research, that doesn't really happen because you have a project and then after so many months, that project, hopefully you have a paper out of it, but there's always a new project. There's always another step to go to. There's always a new phase. And so there's always new stuff to do. And so that just really, I was like, oh, yes, get me out of here. These other jobs that I just can't stand. So that was probably my biggest motivation. As far as getting into the graduate program, I guess I had always sort of mentioned in some of my classes and to some friends that I was always interested in going, but I wasn't sure if I should go to industry first. Is that better? And I guess it was actually the professor who became my advisor. I guess she was kind of the biggest motivation to get me to go just directly into graduate school rather than going into industry or anything beforehand. And it was just kind of funny. The story is basically she had known that I'd mentioned it. And then at the end of one of her classes, because I'd taken a couple of her classes, and at the end of one of her classes, she kind of came up to me. She's like, oh, you're applying to the graduate school, right? And I was like, oh, I guess, sure. And then that sort of just sealed the deal that I got kind of pulled in. But yeah, as far as for professors, I know a lot of professors, especially UTSA, it's really nice because a lot of the professors really enjoy sort of picking students from their undergrad and from their classes, especially the students that do really well, the students that are really interested. And so that's really great because I know at a lot of other universities, that's not, a lot of other universities kind of push their students to, if they want to go to the graduate school, to go to other schools, or they want to choose students who have had an undergrad at other schools to bring them in. So I think UTSA is really nice about that. But yeah, that's the basic story and all that.
So just to expand on that a little bit, I think you said it sounded like you had some rapport with that professor. Was that through going to office hours, or how did you?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing, of course, is doing well in the class. Always being in class, showing up to class on time, being interested, asking questions, and doing well. But yes, also going to office hours. Definitely, I know there's a kind of variability that I've heard across a lot of different stories from other graduate students where some of it was very sort of passive, that professor really chose that student and went after them. They're like, you're going to be my graduate student, and no ifs, ands, or buts. But most of the time you do have to sort of, really just show that you are interested in it. And the best way to do that, like you said, going to office hours, being in class all the time, asking questions, just going and saying oh, I looked up these articles, or I saw this type of new sort of technology coming out that's really closely related to what we do in class. I was wondering, can we talk about that and stuff like that? And most professors really enjoy that, especially during office hours, because unless it's, midterm or final time, most of the time during office hours, most professors are quite bored. They don't have a whole lot to do. I mean, there's definitely some times where they have plenty to do, but a lot of times they do welcome the students to chat and fill up the hour, just kind of waiting to go to the next class or anything like that.
Okay. And I guess we'll kind of start with the next question back on you. So John, how are you enjoying your experience so far in research? You still, it seems like you love it.
Yeah, no, I really enjoy it. There are definitely times that it is kind of intense. I mean, every job has, those sort of crunch times, and especially, I mean, even as undergrads and, academics, I'm sure all of us have had the, midterms time, finals time, that last week where you're like, oh, got to get that project done. And you have to, stay up for 3 days straight trying to get your projects and study time in. And that still definitely does happen it's just paper deadlines instead of, studying for tests and all that kind of stuff. So it still definitely happens. And that is the time where I do sort of hate research, but most of the other time it's extremely rewarding. It's very fun. You get to work on problems really in depth, really tackle a problem, and it's really cool when you are able to sort of come up with something new or come up with something different or put the pieces together of new technology that haven't been put together in a different way. But I do like what I believe it was Comfort said, that where you do fail quite a lot. You have to go through many iterations, a whole lot, to get to that point where you actually do have something that works. So it's definitely you expect to go through a lot of rounds of research and a few for one project. Usually the first thought you have isn't always, sometimes it works out and that's great, but a lot of times you have to refine it over a number of different rounds. And that's always fun, doing something, realizing whether it worked or not, refining it, doing again, going back and forth.
Okay.
That process.
All right, I'll kind of open this one up to everybody. Leon is asking, have you gone to a conference, and what was your experience of being there?
For me, yeah, I've gone to a few conferences. I think at least 4 or 5 conferences, and they're always pretty interesting and fun. It just definitely depends on the type of conference. There's of course much smaller conferences for more niche problems, more specific problems, and there's definitely the giant conferences that kind of go, have a whole bunch of different people, a whole bunch of different research from all sorts of areas across the whole, a whole grandiose umbrella. And so they're definitely very different experiences. Sometimes I do enjoy, usually the much larger ones are more fun because you get to meet a lot more people. Usually they're a little more swanky. It's always nice. But, the smaller ones are also really nice because it's a lot more intimate. You get to really talk in depth about your topic that you're interested in with other people, whereas in the bigger ones, it can be a little more kind of abstract, very general, because you don't always meet the person that's, in your research. But yeah, they're usually fun. The whole point of a conference is to meet new people and to meet new researchers, and then of course discuss your research and see what everybody's doing, what's sort of on the precipice of the newest research. Is so conferences are pretty fun. They can be, I think I will admit, the first couple I went to, I was very intimidated. I was like, oh God, shy in the corner of a room. But yeah, you get over that pretty quickly.
Okay. Comfort, Amatullah, have you guys been to conferences?
I've been to a couple conferences, but not really academic conferences. I'll use this great opportunity to talk about Grace Hopper Conference, ACM-Wers. And if you're a man, you can go to. There are some men there. But the UTSA department actually has scholarships for the Grace Hopper conferences, and those are really good because it's not really an academic conference, but there are academic tracks for workshops and for talks, and it's very good for networking. And if you're looking for an internship or a job, it's a very good place to go to. Lately, there are also really good conferences that have been going virtual, and so I've personally attended that, not for school. For some of them, I've attended virtually. And to talk about more academic conferences, I know because the conferences, you need to pay some fee, right, to go. And sometimes it can get expensive. Sometimes they have scholarships, but usually the best way to go to a conference is if you have a paper to present at the conference or a workshop or something, because then you get funding from the conference to go for free. I don't know if it's something that can be worked out if it's a conference that has to do with your research, if it's something that can be talked about with your PI or whoever is the head of your lab, something might be able to be arranged according to a little bit of what I know. But conferences are definitely good to go to. It can expand your mind to so many things. And like John was saying, it was a tip of the tongue. But yeah, the big conferences are like concerts. It's so much fun. You get lost in it. It's a very great experience. And I think everyone should experience it at one point in their lives.
Okay. And I will take this moment to kind of plug a little thing. ACM has got some extra funding from some donors, and so we are trying to see if we can't help. If you find a conference that you're interested in, go to our Discord. There's a link for a little form, and we want to try to sponsor some people to go to some conferences with that extra funding that we have. So let us know if there's something we can help you out with. We want to get more people at those conferences and get that experience if we can.
Can I say a few things, Chris? The graduate school every year, they provide the graduate student what they call it a grant, professional development grant that you can apply $500 or $800 everyone, if you get, especially if you have a paper, if you work out of such a paper with your faculty and get accepted, you want to go there, present it, and definitely the graduate school will, cover part of that. I think even the department, even if your faculty don't have the travel money and you get some part from the graduate school, and the department can kick in a few of them as well.
Okay, very cool. Thank you. Okay, let's go back to Amatullah. Have you been to any research or any conferences?
No.
Okay, not yet. Well, can you go ahead and speak about like how you're enjoying your research experience so far?
Yeah, sure. So my research has been a lot of fun, mainly because, like I said, this was some new research that I jumped into. So I had to learn everything basically from scratch. I mean, I had some experience in parallel programming, but not to this extent. Like it got super intense. I did take a course with Dr. Prasad that helped, but a lot of it was discovering stuff on my own. I was not from a research, like I'm not very, from an undergraduate standpoint, I didn't believe I was a very research oriented student. So when I came into research, everything was new for me. Having to doing literature review, having to read these papers, getting up to speed with what is, the cutting edge technology in my research field, and what is the new research that people are working on, what are the pressing problems and needs. So all of this, I think, there was this, like deer in the headlight like moment where I didn't know what was going on. But I think, personally in my nature, I do enjoy situations like that where I'm thrown in the deep end. I have to learn everything on my own. And I think, that's when your faculty or your professor you can really get a good connection going, because they're willing to help. They're willing to, give you all the background and all the help you need. All you have to do is ask. So, I'm kind of an introvert, so that was difficult for me as well. But, I'm learning a lot of things about myself, about my research. So research has been great because I learned a lot of things. And, I enjoy the fact that, like I think John said, it's very satisfying and it's very rewarding at the end of the day. Even if you don't get the research done, even if you don't get your problem, solved, I think the knowledge that you gain from doing the wrong thing it can take you very far. So like, I think Edison, 1,000 ways of how not to make a light bulb. So, it's a lot of fun in that sense, because you learn so much and you do, in a sense, become very like a master in what you're doing, which is very, very satisfying. And you kind of don't have that, feeling about yourself and about what you're doing, not all the time when you graduate as an undergraduate. So yeah, it's been gratifying.
So for you, could you maybe speak to what you think, like the kinds of people that might enjoy doing research?
I think, yeah. So I think you have to be the kind of person who has to be, motivated. I wouldn't say like 100% of the time, because that's really hard, but you have to be motivated. You have to be okay with failing, and you have to be okay with, asking for help and knowing that you don't know something, and, be having that initiative to go out and learn. So yeah, you have to be motivated in that sense, motivated in the thing of like, I want to learn as much as I can, absorb as much as I can, or apply what I know as much as I can. So that kind of feeling, that kind of motivation you do need to, come in with. I think everything else, gaps in your knowledge, everything else can be, stuff that you can, get over through the journey. But I think just coming in, you need to be motivated about your research and motivated as a person to just learn new things and try new things out. So yeah.
Comfort, do you have anything that you'd like to add on that?
Everything Amatula said about being motivated and really utilizing, you're not going to be the only one working on something in your lab. You might be the only one working on something specific, but there are other people who have the general knowledge on the types of things you'll be working on. And so usually you'll meet people who have been doing it for a lot longer than you have. So there's a world of knowledge there. I know that's helped me a lot. Apart from research being great and edifying and everything, it's also, for me, it's been really, really hard, especially not knowing anything about research coming in, just like Amatula. For the PhD students, they have classes like research methods and things that kind of prep your mind on the way to think about doing research, on the things to look for, the kind of things to keep in mind when you're kind of parsing data and doing a lot of things. So not having that information prior, you're kind of learning it after you do the wrong thing. And then they're like, oh, you shouldn't have done that. Go do something else a different way. So talking to people is, I think, the most invaluable thing. Just talk to people about what you're working on. If you get stuck somewhere, it might take you maybe 2 days to figure it out yourself, but someone else might have gone through it. And that's happened a lot for me. Someone else has gone through what I was going through, and they already have something that they worked on to fix some problem that I have now. So I think the type of person that would thrive in a research environment is someone that's motivated, someone who does like challenges, just like John. The reason I left the job I was doing right when I graduated first was because I got bored. Like, it wasn't very challenging for me. And you kind of learn what you have to do, and it's like, okay, I just have to do this all the time. So yeah.
Thank you. And John, what do you think? The kind of people that might, enjoy doing research.
Yeah, I think Amatula and Comfort probably said most of it, but just to expand, I guess in terms of the type of person, you can be sort of like any type of person, like, because there's there's a couple different ways to do research. There's, the very detailed oriented way where you're extremely organized and very precise. Then there's, on the other end of the spectrum where it's just like, let's just throw sciencing at the wall and see what happens. And so, and that's a scale, obviously. So there's a whole lot of variability there. But yeah, I mean, this willingness to always be willing to learn and, be willing to know that, like, you're probably going to fail a whole bunch of times, but you need to persevere because, the 100th time may have been another failure, but the 101st time may succeed. And so I guess you do need to sort of have a little bit of a thick skin to kind of like get through that, like, oh, that didn't work. Oh, that didn't work. Oh, that didn't work. Like, what's next? What else can we try to, like, make this work? So yeah, there's definitely, there's that willingness to just like that drive to sort of, persevere and just like to keep learning and to always be open to new ideas. I mean, definitely sometimes like ideas, you think it's going to be great and then it turns out crap. And then other times you're like, this idea can't possibly work, and then you end up trying it because you've tried a whole bunch of other stuff and you're like, why not? And then it ends up like working perfectly and you're like, oh, okay. Cool. So yeah, but yeah, just again, willingness to learn and like to persevere through a lot of challenges and disappointment or failure, at least.
All right, so it looks like we are coming up on time here. I would like to just go around, if you guys, do you have any closing remarks that we haven't been able to talk about thus far? You can go ahead and start, John, if you have something.
I guess just closing remarks. I will say, kind of like what Amatula said and Comfort said, I don't think anybody who goes into research is like ready for research. A lot of us, like, I think the majority of people have that deer in the headlights sort of moment where it's just kind of like, I don't know what I'm really doing, but I want to do it. So help, please. And so, usually the first thing you do, like your advisors will just like plop like a big stack of papers in front of you and be like, read that. And then that'll be the first kind of like month or so more of like what you're doing. And so just be willing and ready to learn, but you'll do fine. And there's always ways to get funding, even though sometimes it is really difficult, but there's always a way to, like, if you want to do research, like you can do research, and there is a way for you to do
it. Sure. Comfort.
Advice that I'll give is don't ever feel like you're stuck in something. Like Amatula did, you might go into research with one professor doing something, and then once you're in it, you realize, oh, I thought this would be interesting, but this is not really what I want to do. You can go to another professor and find something else that you're interested in, because it's just better for you, for your experience, and for what you're giving to the professor when you're more interested in what you're doing, right? You can produce better research, and you can really have that self-motivation that you need. You're going to need self-motivation to get through some of the things that comes with research. So just don't ever feel like you're stuck, and explore your options, because at the end of the day, research isn't just about what you're giving to the professor, it's also what you can get out of it to kind of help build your future as you go along.
Okay, thank you. And last, Amatullah.
Yeah, I think my advice would be don't be intimidated, because, especially as an undergraduate student, it gets really scary because you haven't done research, you haven't done anything close to that, and you just want to try things out, but it's hard. So yeah, just don't be scared. Just, reach out to professors. They're there to help you. They really, like John said, they're very open to conversation, and, it's intimidating at first, but they're very helpful, and there's always resources, and they're willing to give you guidance in the right path. So yeah, so if you're really interested in something that you really want to do, or you have this idea that you want to discuss or bounce off, approach your professors. And even if you don't want to start with the professor, approach your peers. There might be other people who are considering research as well. You can reach out to graduate students. I mean, most of the time we are your TAs, so you can just always, email us and be like, hey, I'm interested in research. Who can I talk to? And, what are the resources that I can access? And we'll be happy to guide you. So don't feel scared, intimidated, lost, because there's always, help available to you. So yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Can I add one last thing?
Of course.
So apart from all the academic stuff and all the research stuff, in graduate school as well, make sure to take advantage of the Graduate Student Association. We have a Graduate Student Association, and there's also fun that happens. It's not just research and academic work. So also keep that in mind for the graduate school, and try to get involved as much as you can.
Okay.
And then, sorry, final note. If there's
Of
anyone
course.
who still has questions or things of some later, I mean, you can definitely either email us. I don't know, if you want to post our email specifically, but they can email you and you can give us the questions or anything like that. If you think of anything later,
Sure.
definitely willing to write up a little answer to any of that stuff.
Of course. And yeah, I am a graduate student. This is my first semester in the master's program. I just got on the CS grad Discord. So yeah, if any ACM people have any questions, of course you can message me and I can relay questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions, because it seems like that's been said numerous times. It's all about learning and not being afraid to ask for help, because you've got such great resources here between other students and faculty. So okay.
Actually, I would like to thank John, Amatullah, and Comfort for coming and give your experience and share with your experience with the student. And one final thing that I want to mention, that is, don't wait until you get into the graduate program and start the research. You can start the research as a Comfort and Amatullah mentioned, that you can start research as you are in your maybe the junior year, even study junior year, or maybe the senior years. And some faculty, they have actually the specific research funding for the undergraduate student, and what they call it is a research experience for undergraduate student. So basically, you may not be able to do a lot of things there, but you learn what you want to research the topic is, and at the same time you can support yourself a little bit, but not a lot of money, by the way. But that you can talk to individual faculties, especially for the research topic you want to work on. Okay.
Excellent.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, and I do want to thank you guys. This was an excellent meeting, even better than I was expecting it to be. You guys are great speakers, and I think we got some excellent information. Thank you all, Amatullah, Comfort, and John. Wonderful presentation.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, for organizing this. Thank you for having us. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.